The Restless Wave, the title of John McCain's final autobiography, a line from the Navy hymn. Best known as a senator and presidential candidate, at his core, John McCain was a naval officer. His character formed by the US Naval Academy in Annapolis. He was already Navy aristocracy. His namesake father and grandfather became four-star admirals. The pride of today's US fleet is named for his father. An awful lot was expected of midshipman John Sidney McCain.
Oh yeah, well, you know, he was a party guy. You know, he liked to have fun, and I think maybe rebelling against his admiral father and grandfather.
The Academy's rigorous training did prepare him and others for their darkest hours.
I tell you, it was pretty realistic. They were very good at what they did. And even though you knew it was a simulation, you knew you were going to be done in 2 days, it was still pretty interesting. It's pretty scary stuff. But it just impressed upon me how much those guys had to endure.
Lieutenant Commander McCain had already cheated death on his aircraft carrier, narrowly dodging an explosion on deck that killed several others. October 26, 1967. He was soon to show his maverick streak again, dropping bombs from his Skyhawk on his Hanoi target, defying orders. A war story that still captivates historians.
He did that because he didn't want a fellow squadron mate to have to return to that target the same day or the next day and risk their life prosecuting that target. So he was willing to put himself in grave jeopardy to possibly save other American lives. In this instance, the gamble failed. It had nothing to do with his pilot skills. It had to do with the calculated risk that failed. Took off the wing. He ejected upside down, broke his right leg, broke both of his arms, one arm in 3 places, ended up at the bottom of a lake, unconscious.
Once in captivity, McCain's family legacy came back to haunt him. His father was Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific.
They realized they had a valuable commodity with John McCain, so they subjected him to special treatment, and that special treatment was not favorable treatment, but torture and 2 years of solitary confinement.
Because of his father, he was offered an early release. He turned it down, choosing solidarity with his fellow prisoners.
He would use a tap code on the wall to signal that he was still alive, and he would communicate and try to cheer up his fellow POWs.
McCain was a romantic. Robert Jordan, the hero of Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls, was his role model, a soldier who sacrificed himself for a greater cause. His own active service cut short, he served as Navy liaison to the Senate and later chairman of the Armed Services Committee. He stood firmly against torture and advocated for veterans.
But he certainly served on armed services, which got us connections with the whole issues of things coming out of the Department of Defense that was important to us, on various concerns about looking at what happened to people in the military, not only for us from Vietnam, but even the more recent veterans.
McCain returned to Annapolis again and again. His son graduated from the Academy. For John McCain, class of 1958, this is where it all began. And according to his wishes, this is where it will all end. There'll be a private memorial service in the chapel on the grounds just behind me, and a private burial right next to his classmate and best friend, Admiral Chuck Larsen. Larsen was a legend at the Academy. A building is named in his honor. Since its founding in 1845, the Academy dominates the waterside town. This week, the civilian streets form an honor cordon. McCain will forever watch over Sherman Field and where the River Severn meets Navy Creek, as the next generations of midshipmen learn the lessons and build the lifelong friendships of Annapolis. Nina Larsen, I-24 News, Annapolis.